Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Modi Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top story tonight on Gravitas is about developments in West Asia that come with far-reaching implications. Israel has dropped what's being called an earthquake bomb in Syria. Meanwhile, Iran is arousing fear with a secret ship and fighter jet. We tell you more about what's brewing and get you the bigger picture. Here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. Trouble mounting for the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau after the Canadian Finance Minister resigns after a policy clash with Trudeau. We get you more on this in just a bit. To what extent did the scandal surrounding the South Korean First Lady actually contribute to the president's downfall? We get you a deep dive. We get you the latest on the destruction unleashed by Cyclone Chido in Mayotte. All this and more coming up. Our top story tonight on Gravitas comes from West Asia. More specifically, it's about Israel and Iran. Israel has dropped an earthquake bomb in Syria as Iran is arousing fear with its secret ship and fighter jet. In fact, Israel's latest assault has sent shock waves both literally and symbolically across the region. The massive airstrike in Syria's Tartus region on late Sunday night has drawn global attention, not just for its implications, its timing, but because the impact was felt on the Richter scale. So you can only imagine the impact it has actually had. More on that in just a bit. There are also two significant military advancements made by Iran. A drone carrier vessel and a combat-ready fighter jet that could be part of a calculated message to Israel and the West. Let's break all of this down for you bit by bit. First, coming to the massive airstrikes by Israel. Israel launched the airstrikes late on Sunday in Syria's coastal Tartus region. These attacks reportedly targeted military facilities, including air defense systems and missile storage sites. The explosions were so powerful that a tremor of 3.1 on the Richter scale was recorded near Israel's Bamias in Golan Heights by the Geological Survey of Israel's Seismology Department at 11:49 p.m. local time on Sunday. The strike was reportedly so devastating that it destroyed a Syrian air defense brigade and advanced weapons storage facilities. While the IDF is yet to disclose any details about the weapons used, the alleged scale of destruction raises critical questions. What kind of a bomb causes an explosion that massive? Is a new class of weaponry behind this? According to a post on the platform X by an independent researcher, the attacks at Tartus were so large that they were detected at Iznik Turkey magnetometer station, located nearly 820 kilometers away, 820 kilometers away. Meanwhile, Abu Muhammad al-Golani, the leader of Syria's Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, criticized the Israeli strikes, calling them, quote-unquote, unprovoked aggression. These strikes reportedly align with Israel's long-term objectives in the Golan Heights. The area remains a point of contention. In fact, Israeli government has approved a plan to double Israeli settlements there. Arab nations, including Saudi Arabia, in fact, even the UAE, have condemned the move. But will that deter Israel, or will it only embolden the country? Meanwhile, as tensions rise, Iran has stepped up its game. First, its Yak-130 aircraft, armed with Soviet-origin R-73 missiles, signaling a new shift in its air power. The aircraft can reportedly strike enemy ground formations with a range of 1,600 kilometers and the ability to carry a variety of weapons.
Yet at this pivotal moment, I want to address you, the people of the world. I want to do so directly, without hurting you. Every day, you see.
In fact, this aircraft reportedly has multiple uses for Iran's military. It can engage in both air-to-air and ground combat, and can also fly from a variety of runways, making it a versatile option. So is Iran's focus on modernizing its air force a reaction to Israel's increasing aggression? Or is this part of a broader strategy? And this, by the way, is just one part of Iran's new secret weaponry saga and how it's arousing fear. Iran's new drone carrier vessel, Shahid Bagheri, has reportedly entered sea trials. Satellite images reportedly reveal a structure similar to an aircraft carrier, but designed for drones, which paves the way for Iran's military to bring armed drones closer to battlefields. You see, there have been various reports about the success of Iranian drones in regional conflicts, and even in Europe, where Russia has reportedly used Iranian drones like the Shahed drone against Ukraine on multiple occasions in the nearly 3-year-long war. Will these drone carriers be a game changer for Iran? What sort of a reaction will they trigger? Both Israel and Iran, after all, are making moves that could alter the region's power balance and dynamics. Israel's airstrikes showcasing its military might, sending out a message, but Iran's ship and fighter jet arousing fear and suggesting it has a lot up its sleeve. Iran has managed to develop a robust arsenal, from combat drones to advanced radar systems. Are these advancements enough to deter future Israeli strikes, or do they set the stage for a larger confrontation? The early stages of a new arms race that could engulf the entire region with further chaos. As Israel and Iran flex their military might, the stakes continue to shoot up for the region and the world. Shifting focus for now, Bangladesh's interim leader Muhammad Yunus has announced a time frame for general elections in the country in a televised speech on the 54th victory day of the 1971 Liberation War. Yunus said that general elections in the country could be held by the end of 2025 or the first half of 2026. The development comes amid mounting pressure on Yunus-led interim government in Dhaka to set out a date for the elections following the ouster of Sheikh Hasina. Previously, Yunus had emphasized that reforms were needed before setting a poll date and that it depended on which political parties would agree to it.
If we add the expected reforms in terms of electoral process with this, based on national unity and the recommendations made by the Electoral Reform Commission, then it might take at least 6 more months. Largely, it can be said that the time for the election can be fixed from the end of 2025 to the first half of 2026.
Sheikh Hasina has, meanwhile, once again attacked the interim government led by Muhammad Yunus, calling it an undemocratic group. In a statement issued on the eve of Victory Day, Hasina called Yunus a fascist and alleged that the main aim of the dispensation led by Yunus was to suppress the spirit of the liberation war and the pro-liberation forces. In fact, she also went on to say that every step that Yunus-led interim government is taking is proof of lack of sensitivity towards its people. Earlier, cracks were visible between Yunus's interim government and the party of Khaleda Zia, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, BNP. Party leaders had hit out at student leaders and Muhammad Yunus for giving no time frame for the elections and return to a democratic process. In fact, Yunus has spoken repeatedly of the need to implement electoral reforms before elections can be called. Both India and Bangladesh are commemorating the 1971 war victory today. 8 Indian war veterans and 2 serving officers of the Indian Armed Forces arrived in Dhaka as part of the commemorations, while 8 members of Mukti Bahini and 2 serving officers of Bangladesh Armed Forces also arrived in Kolkata to participate in the Vijay Divas celebrations. Russian President Vladimir Putin declared 2024 a landmark year in Russia's military campaign against Ukraine, hailing accelerating advances and issuing yet another warning to Western countries about crossing Russia's red lines. Our next report taking a look at how, with Russia intensifying its offensive, the conflict is taking a grim turn, raising serious questions about the future of Western support for Ukraine.
Russian forces are launching coordinated strikes on Ukraine. Russian missiles and drones are targeting deeper targets. Glide bombs launched from Russian fighter jets are demolishing the already fragile Ukrainian front lines. On the ground, Russian forces are marching ahead, forcing Ukrainians to retreat. Russia's defense ministry claims that its troops had seized a total of almost 4,500 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory in this year, and were now gaining around 30 square kilometers a day. On the Eastern Front, in the Donbas regions, things look grim for Ukraine. In a display of military confidence, Russian President Vladimir Putin declares 2024 a watershed moment in Moscow's relentless offensive against Ukraine.
The outgoing year has become significant in achieving the goal of a special military operation. With the professionalism and courage of our soldiers, the heroic work of employees of defense enterprises and the truly nationwide support for the Army and Navy, Russian troops firmly hold a strategic initiative along the front lines. Only during this year, 189 settlements have been liberated. I would like to warmly thank our heroes.
The Russian president, addressing top military generals in an end-of-year meeting, accuses Western nations of pushing Russia to its red lines, a thinly veiled threat of escalation. Putin reveals that Kremlin is doubling down on military innovation, ramping up the mass production of missile systems, including hypersonic weapons like the Oreshnik missile that recently struck Dnipro. The technological edge is stark. Putin hints that Russian forces are now deploying AI-powered systems, signaling a new era of warfare that goes beyond traditional battlefield tactics. Russia's latest airstrike, the largest in nearly 3 months, further demonstrates its strategy. Many killed, widespread power blackouts and a coordinated assault on civilian infrastructure reveals an approach designed to break Ukrainian morale. Ukraine claims that North Korean units fighting for Russia sustained losses of at least 30 soldiers killed or wounded around several villages on the front in Russia's Kursk region over the weekend.
Russians have begun to use soldiers from North Korea in assaults, a noticeable number of them. The Russians include them in combined units and use them in operations in the Kursk region. So far only there, but we have information that they may be used in other parts of the front line.
As Ukrainians endure devastating airstrikes, long power blackouts during a harsh winter, President Zelensky urges global unity against Russia's terror campaign. However, with Western support hanging in the balance and Russian forces gaining momentum, the path forward for Ukraine remains uncertain. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
To big news coming in from Canada, where Justin Trudeau's government is in trouble. Massive infighting taking place. Canada's Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, in the latest had unexpectedly resigned. She, by the way, also holds the post of the country's finance minister. And she has said that she's no longer on the same page with the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, about the best path forward for Canada. She made that big announcement just hours before she was due to present a fall economic update to the Parliament. Now, this document is widely expected to show the Liberal government had run up a much larger 2023 to 24 budget deficit than planned. In fact, Freeland is seen as one of Trudeau's closest allies in the cabinet. She revealed that she was offered another post by Trudeau. In her resignation letter, she says that Canada today faces a grave challenge. Freeland's announcement also follows news that Housing Minister Shaw Fraser will not seek re-election. In fact, taking another pot shot at the Canadian Prime Minister. Freeland said that Donald Trump's administration is pursuing a policy of aggressive economic nationalism, including a threat of 25% tariffs. She urged that the country should take that threat extremely seriously. Remember, Trump's return to power signals a rather turbulent chapter for North America and beyond. And US President-elect Donald Trump has threatened to impose a 25% tariff on all Canadian imports when he is back in the White House, unless his border concerns are addressed. Trudeau, in fact, flew to Florida on November 29th to have dinner with Donald Trump at his Mar-a-Lago club after Trump threatened to impose sweeping tariffs on Canadian products. But instead of getting any reprieve as such, Trump called him Governor Trudeau. We told you about this. This came days after Trump had said that Canada should become the 51st state of the US. And that, again, was a statement which drew a lot of criticism in Canada, raising apprehensions over Trump's moves and what they would mean for Canada. About 60% of US crude oil imports are from Canada, 85% of US electricity imports as well. Ontario's Premier has threatened to cut off power supply to the US as well if the US goes ahead with those moves. Joining us for more on these developments is journalist and host Harrison Faulkner. For more on this, Harrison, hi, welcome to the broadcast. If you can tell us more about what's been going on behind the scenes, really, this friction between the Deputy Prime Minister and Justin Trudeau, definitely not looking good for the Prime Minister. Tell us more about what led to this unexpected resignation.
Well, right now, from the reports that we can see, it's pure chaos inside the Justin Trudeau cabinet and in Ottawa right now. There were reports that Chrystia Freeland was set to be replaced for a few weeks leading up to this announcement. Freeland's departure isn't necessarily surprising, but it's the timing of the departure, the shock announcement that is catching everyone by surprise here. It had been reported that the former Bank of Canada and former Bank of England Governor Mark Carney was set to replace Chrystia Freeland. That now looks almost certain. But right now we're seeing a major ideological divide taking place inside the Trudeau cabinet. And Chrystia Freeland is one of Justin Trudeau's closest allies, one of the people that has been there for Justin Trudeau through all of his scandals, through all of his issues. Now she's gone. Sean Fraser, the housing minister, is gone. There are reports right now that there are other cabinet ministers also set to leave. So just before Christmas, Justin Trudeau is finding himself to be very lonely these days. In fact, he may in fact have half a cabinet by the time Christmas comes around.
Harrison, just to understand this better, of course, these are developments that are just trickling in. But what happens from here onwards? What does this really mean for the people of Canada? Of course, Freeland was due to present that fall economic update to the Parliament. Who presents it now? What happens next?
So who presents that now is actually not known. The reporting in Canada has been, exactly what the rest of the world can see, which is this fall economic statement, which is already being presented quite late. It's the winter. It's no longer the fall. But the fall economic statement is now, I believe the announcement has been postponed. It's not clear who's going to present that statement, but the situation for Canada is dire. Economists predict that Canada will miss its deficit target by $10 to $15 billion. And the Trudeau government hasn't been able to reach their deficit targets since COVID. So the economic situation for our country is dire right now. The Canadian dollar is plummeting with the threat of these 25% crippling tariffs that Donald Trump is threatening to place on our country. We're looking at a very, very bad situation. And it appears as though the Deputy Prime Minister and the Prime Minister had a different view as to how to approach this upcoming tariff war, as Chrystia Freeland described it in her statement. And that's kind of what we're seeing across the country, actually. At a provincial level, the premiers are differing on how to approach this. Some want to play hardball. Some want to fight the United States. Others want to give Donald Trump whatever he's asking for. But whatever it is, it does not look good for Canada. Canada needs to get a finance minister who's competent, who has experience, who knows how to handle the economy. And we need it fast because we're in a really bad situation. And Justin Trudeau has essentially lost not only his closest allies, but he's losing a lot of public support in this country. He has no real hope at this point of remaining prime minister. So it's a matter of really if Justin Trudeau even stays on as prime minister much longer.
Before we let you go, what has Trudeau said? Any reaction coming in?
No reaction yet from Justin Trudeau. I imagine we will see a reaction today, but nothing just yet. It's clear, however, that Justin Trudeau pushed Chrystia Freeland out the door. That statement that she released on social media says that Justin Trudeau wanted her to leave cabinet, wanted her to leave the finance minister role, but that's basically her being fired by Justin Trudeau. We're not certain how he's going to respond to this, but this was the outcome he wanted. He wanted Chrystia Freeland out because he didn't want to have anyone second-guessing his decisions going forward.
All right, definitely these developments coming with a lot of implications for Canada. We're leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much for now.
Thank you.
Moving on, in the US, there is growing concern over a series of mysterious drone sightings. The Biden administration is saying it is probing the sightings, but from a mysterious issue, these drones are now becoming a national security issue. Now, lawmakers from Biden's party also want clear answers from the White House, while the Trump team wants an Iron Dome to protect American skies from the drone menace. Our next story, unpacking the developments.
It's not a bird. It's not a plane. It's a drone. and it's causing alarm across America. From the mystery, it's now turned into a growing frustration among Americans.
It's hard to really describe it. I see the lights, the red and green, blinking on and off. They're pretty high. Some of them are low.
I think maybe it's a helicopter. No, it's not a helicopter. Then suddenly it gets closer and it's hovering right over the trees, and it looks like, I guess, an enormous drone? I'm not even sure what it... I've never seen anything like it. It's just a drone on steroids.
Drones have been observed flying over residential neighborhoods, restricted areas, and critical infrastructure. Since the first sightings in New Jersey in mid-November, the drones have spread to at least 6 states: New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and Virginia. The unanswered question of who is behind these flights and their intentions is causing alarm. Security experts argue that in an era when drones have revolutionized warfare, ignoring the risks could leave the US dangerously vulnerable. The Biden administration is trying to downplay these incidents.
We have not seen any foreign, we know of no foreign involvement with respect to the sightings in the Northeast, and we are vigilant in investigating this matter, the Department of Homeland Security, with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the lead.
Despite official claims that most sightings involve manned aircraft, the US lawmakers from both Republican and Democrats are expressing mounting frustration at the government's lack of transparency.
For weeks, we've asked for the truth and action to mitigate any and all threats to people and property. Now, we are demanding it.
People who have questions about these drones should not have to shake an 8-ball to get an answer. They want real answers, and the Robin can supply those answers, and that's why we want them here. So this is a broader and better response.
Trump's team proposes an ambitious Iron Dome for America, drawing inspiration from Israel's missile defense system. This comprehensive approach would extend beyond traditional missile threats to include drone-specific countermeasures, recognizing the evolving nature of aerial warfare. The unresolved questions surrounding these drone operations, their origin, operators, and potential objectives, create a climate of uncertainty that threatens national security. Each unexplained flight represents a potential breach in America's defensive infrastructure. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Shifting focus now, India is intensifying its security along its borders with a new focus on its northeastern states. The Indian government has launched a massive fencing project along the 1,643-kilometer-long border with Myanmar, around 24% of which, nearly 398 kilometers, comes under the Indian state of Manipur. This project will be carried out in phases over the next decade by India's Border Roads Organization, or BRO. The fencing project, in fact, is expected to cost over 20,000 crore rupees, with an additional 11,000 crore rupees allocated for constructing more than 60 border roads. As per reports, a survey has revealed that more than 1,500 kilometers of fencing, including 300 kilometers of electric barriers, is essential to manage the India-Myanmar border effectively and ensure stability in the northeast region. You see, the escalating instability in Bangladesh has led to ripple effects across the region. At the same time, Myanmar remains in turmoil following the 2021 military coup. The ongoing violence has forced over 31,000 people to flee Myanmar, and seek refuge in India. And there is a cross connection to this. Reportedly, nearly 11 militant groups are operating out of Rohingya refugee camps in Bangladesh, which includes the Rohingya Solidarity Organization, RSO, Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, Arakan Rohingya Army, with some of the groups having links to the Al-Qaeda and Jamaat-e-Islami. Furthermore, radical militant groups are allegedly recruiting from Rohingya camps in Bangladesh and are training them to fight. They are reportedly carrying out atrocities against Buddhists, Hindus along the 270-kilometer Myanmar-Bangladesh border. This instability has led to other dangers, with smuggling, human trafficking, armed infiltrations reportedly on the rise. The government has said fencing the border is a necessary step to combat these growing threats. Earlier this year, India scrapped the free movement regime, which basically allowed residents living near the border to travel up to 16 kilometers into each other's territory without visas. The government is reportedly trying to address these concerns. Plans include installing biometric gates along the fence to allow limited cross-border movement and finalize the locations of these entry and exit points in consultation with the local communities. But the primary goal remains clear: to block armed groups, curb smuggling, and control illegal immigration, be it from Bangladesh or via Myanmar. Meanwhile, tensions at the India-Bangladesh border are also running high since an unrest erupted in Bangladesh in August. Until December 1, India's Border Security Force has held 643 meetings with Border Guard Bangladesh. Reportedly, over 2,200 Bangladeshi nationals have been caught attempting to cross into India illegally. In August, Sheikh Hasina was forced to flee the country. Since then, there has been a rise in extremism and chaos across Bangladesh, and thus the risk of cross-border movements by extremist groups has grown. Furthermore, the reports of drones being deployed by Bangladesh in Indian states like Meghalaya further complicating the situation, posing surveillance challenges for Indian forces. As India's northeastern states are grappling with security challenges, the government's measures aim to strengthen borders and restore stability. Our next story is about the downfall of South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol, a saga deeply intertwined with his wife, Kim Keon-hee. Her influence, the controversy surrounding her, have drawn intense scrutiny, reportedly earning her titles like Korea's Lady Macbeth and drawing comparisons with the 18th century Queen of France, Marie Antoinette, for her luxurious lifestyle. You see, President Yoon's impeachment came swiftly, just 11 days after his failed attempt to impose martial law in the country. The National Assembly voted to remove him, while his stated reason for martial law was North Korean threats. Many experts and South Koreans believe his real aim was shielding his wife from legal troubles. Controversies surrounding Kim Keon-hee have in a way reportedly overshadowed his presidency. In fact, even before she became First Lady, she drew criticism for her business dealings. During the 2021 presidential campaign, she publicly apologized for overstating her academic credentials. Not just that, leaked conversations revealing her boastful claim that she was the real power behind Yoon's political rise. Her remarks often sparked outrage, including her defense of a left-wing politician convicted of rape. She reportedly said that scandals involving liberals occurred more frequently because they failed to pay off the victims. Despite such remarks, no serious allegations against Kim have stuck. Accusations of plagiarism in her academic thesis were dismissed by her alma mater, Kookmin University, as minor issues. Even after a court found her and her mother's bank accounts linked to stock manipulation, Kim avoided charges. This year, She faced further criticism after accepting a Christian Dior handbag costing over $2,200 from a businessman. Political experts said that these cases have been swept under the rug because of her husband's former role as South Korea's chief prosecutor and current position as president, of course. In the month of April, the opposition gained control of the National Assembly and introduced 3 separate bills to appoint a special prosecutor to invest Kim. But each time, Yoon vetoed the bills. The situation escalated when a 4th attempt to prosecute Kim coincided with Yoon's ill-fated martial law announcement. Yoon justified his move by citing North Korean threats, but many critics and South Koreans argued it was another effort to protect his wife. Now with Yoon impeached, acting President Han Duck-soo holds the power to decide whether the investigation into Kim will proceed. Meanwhile, a documentary film titled First Lady, which delves into the controversy surrounding Kim, is reportedly drawing sold-out crowds across South Korea following its release on Thursday. Clearly, Kim Keon-hee's polarizing presence has left South Korea deeply divided. And as the dust settles on President Yoon's impeachment, one question still remains: will his wife face the consequences of her alleged actions? Or will her influence continue to shape the country's political landscape, if at all? The People's Liberation Army's Electronic Warfare Unit has produced a list of targets for a coordinated attack against U.S. aircraft carrier strike groups. This comes at a time when the Chinese Navy has been flaunting its power. It has been threatening Taiwan, leaving the U.S. and its allies worried. Our next story brings you all the updates.
The dragon is roaring on the high seas. Taiwan is feeling the heat. The Chinese ships keep testing Taiwan's defenses, making Taipei and its allies jittery. China's military machine is flexing its technological muscle. The Chinese Navy is casting an ominous shadow over US naval supremacy in the Pacific. As geopolitical tensions simmer, the People's Liberation Army unveils a chilling blueprint that could fundamentally reshape modern naval warfare. The Chinese military electronic warfare capabilities have reached a critical inflection point, transforming from a regional threat to a global strategic game-changer. The PLA has identified and mapped precise vulnerabilities in US aircraft carrier strike groups, presenting a kill list that sends tremors through Pentagon war rooms. At the heart of this unprecedented revelation lies a meticulously researched strategy targeting the US Navy's most sophisticated defense systems. The PLA's Electronic Warfare Unit has not just created a list, it's crafted a technological roadmap designed to neutralize America's maritime dominance. The revelation, published in the government-supervised defense industry conversion in China, outlines a coordinated strategy to disrupt and neutralize the US Navy's key systems in the event of conflict. The primary target, according to Chinese researchers, is the US Navy's Cooperative Engagement Capability System, a critical air defense and early warning network that connects radar and missile systems across a carrier group. Chinese researchers argue that the CEC's reliance on wireless communication links makes it vulnerable to electronic interference. The PLA is also targeting a loophole on phased array radars aboard US Aegis ships. Chinese experts claim these sophisticated radars can be overwhelmed by advanced technologies like drones, creating noise and false targets to disrupt detection. PLA specialists have also identified US military signal transponders as weak points that could be exploited to infiltrate networks. With over 90% of China's civilian technologies convertible to military use, its dominance in electronic device production gives it a strategic edge. This unprecedented kill list shows the urgent need for the US and its allies to bolster their defenses against China's rapidly advancing electronic warfare capabilities. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Shifting focus for now, rescuers are racing against time to reach survivors and supply urgent aid after a devastating cyclone Chido ripped through the French-Indian Ocean territory of Mayotte, destroying homes across the area with hundreds feared dead. In fact, images from Mayotte, which like other French overseas territories is an integral part of France and ruled from Paris, showed scenes of devastation, with homes reduced to piles of rubble. Reports saying several hundred people, maybe even thousands, have been killed when the most powerful cyclone in nearly a century hit Mayotte.
French authorities say they're bracing for hundreds and perhaps even thousands of dead. But there may never be a full accounting of the death toll because many of the migrants who live on the islands are undocumented, and also because of local Muslim traditions which require rapid burials when people die.
As per the health minister, the cyclone left health services in tatters, with the main hospital extremely damaged and health centers knocked out of operation. Cyclone Chido caused major damage to Mayotte's airport, cut off electricity, water and communication links when it barreled down. Chido was packing winds of at least 226 kilometers per hour when it slammed into Mayotte, which lies to the east of Mozambique. Cyclone Chido's impact is not limited to Mayotte. Comoros experienced some damage, while the cyclone made landfall in Mozambique, bringing heavy rain and gale force winds. Millions across the region remain at risk of floods and further damage. The UK government is under increasing pressure as members of parliament threaten to name the alleged Chinese spy who became a close confidant of Prince Andrew. Reform UK's Nigel Farage told The Independent he could name the businessman known as H6 as early as Wednesday if the courts do not. Shadow Foreign Secretary Preeti Patel saying the public deserve to know the full facts behind the case. Chris Phillip, the Shadow Home Secretary, meanwhile, urged the court to change or cancel the anonymity order. Former Conservative leader Sir Lane Duncan-Smith accused the Labour government of not wanting to be seen to criticise China. He is applying for an urgent question in the House of Commons on the influence of China's shadowy United Front Work Department, the group said to be associated with the unnamed businessman. The latest scandal erupted on Thursday after judges upheld a government ban on H6 from entering Britain. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper claiming the government's approach was complex because London needed to have economic cooperation with Beijing, even as she warned China that the UK would take a very strong approach to national security. The businessman is said to have become a close confidant of the Duke of York, with whom he was described in courts on Thursday as having formed an unusual degree of trust. Andrew's only comments came on Friday when he said he had followed advice from the government and ceased all contact with the individual after concerns were raised. Previously, the businessman is said to have met two former Prime Ministers, David Cameron and Theresa May, and kept pictures with them in his London office. In a historic moment in Paris, the revered crown of thorns, believed to have been worn by Jesus Christ, has returned to Notre-Dame Cathedral. The sacred relic has been reinstated 5 years after it was saved from the flames of the devastating 2019 fire. Its return marks a major milestone in the cathedral's restoration efforts. The crown of thorns, a revered relic encased in a golden tube, was brought back to its historic home at Notre-Dame Cathedral in a solemn ceremony presided over by the Archbishop of Paris and attended by esteemed members of the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre. This momentous occasion marked a pivotal milestone in the cathedral's restoration journey. The crown of thorns was first documented by pilgrims visiting Jerusalem in the 5th century. The relic was later transported to Constantinople in the 10th century. In 1239, King Louis IX of France acquired the relic, bringing it to Paris, where it has been venerated for centuries. Following the devastating fire at the cathedral on April 15, 2019, the crown of thorns was preserved in a sealed case alongside other relics. Thanks to the swift actions of brave firefighters, the relic will now be displayed for public veneration at the cathedral starting January 10. On to the world of sport for now. Pep Guardiola is arguably the best coach in football, but things aren't quite going well for him and his team Manchester City as of now. So much so that it has led to him questioning his ability as a coach, and it's even affecting his sleep and diet. We break down what seems to have gone wrong with the Spaniard in the last few months. You see, things hit a new low for Guardiola and Manchester City on Sunday. City's rivals Manchester United scored 2 late goals to hand Guardiola's team another defeat. This one was particularly painful for Guardiola as it came against a team who themselves are going through a huge crisis. Throughout the match, Guardiola looked agitated and animated on the touchline, and by the end of the match, he looked like a defeated man.
To do, keep working, but I'm the boss, I'm the manager, and I'm not good enough. It's as simple as that. I have to find a way to talk to them, to train to them, to the way you have to play, the way I have to press, the way I have to build up. And I'm not good enough. I'm not doing well. That is the truth.
City have now won only once in 11 matches. That statistic has all football fans around the world scratching their heads. The team looks a shadow of their former selves and are already out of contention, by the way, for the Premier League title with more than half the season still left. The reason why City's form is so bewildering is because of the success the team had before this season. City won a record-breaking 4 straight Premier League titles in a row under Guardiola and even won the coveted treble of the Champions League, Premier League and FA Cup in 2023. And it would be fair to say that because Guardiola is used to such success, that he is having a hard time digesting the fact that his team simply is not at the same level anymore. The run of results is clearly taking a toll on him.
Do keep working, but I'm the boss, I'm the manager, and I'm not good enough. It's as simple as that. I have to find a way to talk to them, to train to them, to the way you have to play, the way I have to press, the way I have to build up. And I'm not good enough. I'm not doing well. That is the truth. Because they say this always is the same problem. It's been fixed. You know, I say, no, it's that player. It's fixed, no play. But it's not that. Mateos, the incredible effort have played in the left back, have played really, 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 really good, with or without. But, you know, it's happened, it's football, and move forward.
In fact, Guardiola also made a joke about a serious issue like self-harm a few weeks back.
Got a cut and apparently some others.
Yeah, with my finger here, with my nail.
That's fine.
I want to hurt myself, yeah.
The Spaniard apologized for those comments, which he made after being asked about scratches on his face, but he is clearly rattled and is feeling the pressure. It's a stark reminder to all of us, in fact, that even the best in the world are only human, and success is never permanent. What if we told you one of the world's most expensive cheeses is made of donkey's milk? In Albania, cheese made out of donkey milk is now being sold at around $157. It's a rather fine delicacy, in fact. A couple in Albania, Fatiko and her husband, Wes Basha, run a small farm where they transform donkey milk into cheese, curd and whey. But this is not as simple as it sounds. In fact, according to Wes, it's a process which requires a lot of care and affection, as donkeys only produce milk when lactating and feel nurtured. What's more, according to him, each animal yields just half a liter of milk per day, something that contributes to its steep price of 50 to 60 euros per kilo, which is roughly $52 to $62. According to a restaurant owner in Albania's capital, the demand for cheese seems to be rising despite the cost of it being $157 approximately for a plate. Some are even guessing it to be the most expensive cheese in the world. What's so special about it? Or more specifically, what's the ingredient that it's actually made of? Donkey milk is reportedly said to have multiple benefits. For thousands of years, donkey milk has been hailed for having health benefits. According to reports, the ancient Greeks and Romans used it as a cure for ailments ranging from ulcers to asthma. History has it that the Egyptian queen Cleopatra would also take a bath using donkey's milk to keep her skin soft, something that made the donkey milk a product which has been long sought after. What's more, reports suggesting donkey's milk contains about 3 times as much vitamin C as cow's milk, and it's often touted as a healthy alternative to dairy. But what explains the skyrocketing price of the cheese made out of the donkey milk? According to the restaurant owner, 25 liters of milk making just 1 kg of this premium cheese, whereas it just takes about 10 liters of cow's milk to make 1 kg of cheddar. They say age is just a number, and when it comes to fulfilling one's dreams,